I'm Maggie Rose March, and this is Real Estate Hotwired. So this is our very first podcast, and we want to welcome you. We're glad you're watching, and we want to talk to you about real estate because we think we have something different to tell you. Real estate's probably the most phenomenal thing happening in America right now. It is so commercialized. It's on Wall Street. I mean, you can do it on the stock exchange. But when I was growing up, real estate was a family tradition. I am a fourth generation real estate agent. I had a great grandfather, a grandmother, my mother, and now me. And we all practiced real estate, and we learned how to make a living out of it. And I collected my first rent when I was 11 years old. So we did real estate many ways. We didn't just own it and live in it. We rented it, we invested in it. My parents had properties that were actually on the historic register. They ran businesses. The home that we grew up in, not only did it house us, but the tenants actually fed and clothed us. And the business that we opened in the basement level, and this was city living, so we had, townhouse with multiple levels. So the business that we ran, it provided all the extras and kind of gave life wings, and that was fun. And by the time I was 16 years old, I was pretty clear that what I wanted to do was own a rental building, a nice big apartment complex, and have rents coming in and live this easy life that I thought everybody had and everybody enjoyed, because that's all I knew. I grew up in the city and thought it was the same for everyone. And I never thought about it in terms of just owning a home until I was a young mother myself and ready to own a home. And then all of a sudden I looked at it very differently. And I thought about things like, I don't want to share my space. I want my children around me and safe in my home. And I don't want tenants, and I don't want headaches, and I don't want to run a business in the basement. Although I've run a business out of my home almost my entire life, and I wish I hadn't, but I have. So we're talking about what real estate means to me, which may not be that important to you, but we also want to talk about what real estate means in American culture today, and we also want to talk about what real estate means to you, or what it might mean to you, and why that's important, and why you want to understand it. Because it's different today than it was when I was a girl. And I've watched it grow up and become a very different industry. And we talked about I wanted to own an apartment building. And I did, honestly, by the time I was 16, realize that that was something I would really like to do, that was going to be a good way for me to go. I haven't realized that ambition yet. I've done a lot of other things with real estate, but I've not owned an apartment building in the city. And for one reason, I don't live in the city. So I think that the most important thing that I want to put across today is that the reason that this show is called Hotwired is I want to take you, through the shortcuts right to the meat and potatoes of what really happens in the real estate industry. Not the glitz and glamour that you see on TV, love it or list it, or this old house, or flip or flop, or you're not Chip and Joanna. My husband and I, we aren't Chip and Joanna. We're real people who have lived this life for many, many years, too many that I don't even want to tell you. And we have real life experience, and I have been able to watch through those 4 generations of experience what really happens and what has really happened in the industry. And then specifically to right now, I think because I live in Sarasota, Florida, and Sarasota County, and I live in Sarasota, it's really important to understand what happens in this county that's different than many, many, many other places in America, and why finding the right home for you can be so difficult. So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about, and that real estate has many personalities and many faces. Not only is there residential real estate, and then you can buy that, either you're buying a first home or a second home, and what does that mean to you, and the different kinds of competition that you face when you're trying to buy a home, whether it's a first home or a vacation home or a rental home. Who's investing in real estate in this area, how many people are investing in real estate in this area, even how many real estate persons are working as agents in this state. And then we'll also look at some of the differences between a real estate agent and a realtor. And I am a realtor, and I'm proud to be a realtor, and that's an important designation. Why it's important for you to hear what I have to say, and how can I make a difference, or how can any realtor make a difference, and why you would want to work with a realtor, or at least know a good realtor. And I have a favorite quote that Douglas Adams said: "To give real service, you must add something which cannot be bought or measured with money." And that is sincerity and integrity. You have to have that in the person that you deal with when you're dealing with somebody in real estate. That's what this show is about. It's going to teach you to recognize it, because we don't always recognize it. Glamour is not integrity. Glamour is not knowledge. And glamour is not sincerity. In real estate, you're making an investment. One of the things that I know that I want to explore in the conversation that I'm going to have with you, the audience, is the different ways that real estate is viewed by the prospective buyer and by the prospective seller. And one thing I know will happen during the course of this is that I'm going to offend people. I'm going to say things that might offend you, or at the moment you hear them, because you might identify with them and say, yeah, well, that's me, or yeah, I was thinking that, or yeah, I didn't know that. I don't want to offend you, but I really do want to wake you up and make you understand that there's a responsibility that comes with anything that you do that carries as much weight and significance as owning a property. It's not a casual decision. It's not something you should think about in terms of only yourself. This is especially true when we get to the portion of the podcast that will talk with and about investors. But it's true too as an owner, what to think about in terms of what kind of a neighbor you're going to be, what kind of a community you're going to live in, and that with every privilege comes responsibility, and real estate's no different than this. So I thank you for joining us today. We will be back. We will talk about more things that we hope are of interest to you and answer your questions. But for today, this is Maggie Rose March, and this was Real Estate Hotwired. Thank you. for yourself or your family, whether it's just to house yourselves in a comfortable environment to raise your children, or if you have a long-term plan that has to do with monetary gain, you still need someone to help you set the course for your future, someone who really knows what they're doing in the industry.